We made it across the ocean.
We did. It was quite the experience, quite the adventure.
But not necessarily something we'd want to do again.
No, blue water crossings, I think we decided to cross off our list.
But we do want to be involved in boat deliveries, maybe charter boat captain, maybe working on a scuba boat, something along those lines.
Maybe in the Caribbean,
East Coast,
Mediterranean.
all that would be good. But in order to do that, I had to get my boat captain's license. And let me tell you, it was not straightforward. It took me a long time to figure out what I had to do, where I had to go, all the bits and pieces I had to get together, how to submit. So I thought that it might be a good idea to create a video that actually explains all the details of how it all goes together, what it costs, how long it takes, etc.
It was quite the process.
So here we are, making a video. Let's talk about that license. There's a lot of different kinds of licenses. How do you know which one you need? Well, it kind of depends on what you want to do with it. For example, if you're running a private pleasure craft, in other words, nobody's paying you, then maybe, depending on the state you live in, all you might need is a boater education card or a boater safety card. Here's my card from Florida. On the other hand, if you want to be a delivery boat captain and have people pay you to move their boats from one location to another, or maybe you want to be a charter boat captain, in that case, you're going to need a U.S. Coast Guard Merchant Mariner credential. Now, there's several different kinds of Merchant Mariner credentials. The one I just got was my OUPV, also known as a six-pack license, because you can carry up to 6 paying customers. Inside of the six-pack, there's 2 different kinds. There's one for inland waterways and lakes, and there's another one for up to 100 miles offshore. If you want to run bigger boats or have more customers, then you need to advance up to your master's license, and that comes in either 25, 100, or 50 tons. I was really kind of surprised at all of the things that you have to do and all the documents that you have to pull together in order to put together your submittal package to go to the Coast Guard. We're going to go through these prerequisites one by one, starting with sea service. Sea service minimum requirements, the rule of thumb is 360, 90, 90. You have to have 360 total days of service. 90 of these have to be in the last 3 years. And if you want to get something besides your inland waterway license, in other words, you want to get your near coastal license, 90 days have to be in the open ocean. You have to be at least 16 years old to start counting your days. So all the time you spent on boats before you were 16 doesn't count. What does count? A day is 4 to 8 hours out actively working on a boat. So you can't be at dock, you can't be anchored up at an island someplace. And they have to be tracked. There's 2 types of licenses, so there's 2 types of experience. There's inland waterways and near shore. Near shore, when you get your license, allows you to operate up to 100 miles off coast. Remember that 360, 90, 90, or the last 90 is 90 days out in the open ocean. You document your time on Form CG 719S, and you actually have to do one of these for each ship that you're on. So if you owned one boat and you spent a lot of time on it, but you worked on somebody else's boat, that's going to be 2 different forms. When you fill out the forms, be careful and make sure that you're doing your math correctly as far as totaling up the number of days, and also make sure you don't do something silly like put 30 days in February, which only has 28 days. The next thing we have to talk about is the classes. Now, the classes, I have to tell you, are pretty intense. And the first decision you need to make is, am I going to do these classes in person or do them online? The advantage of doing them in person is there's an instructor there to help you through the program, and that same instructor will usually help you put your submittal package together. The advantage of doing them online is it's typically cheaper, and you get to do them on your own schedule. If you're going to do them online, you have to choose a service provider as opposed to just taking whoever's offering it in your area. I used the Mariners Learning System and I was really happy with them, but there's several others out there, such as the Maritime Institute and Competent Captain. It's about 170 hours worth of classroom training, and then you have to take the exams after that. So it actually took me several weeks to get through this part of the program. What's covered in the training? A lot. starting with rules of the road. And this is everything from what side of the canal should you be sailing on, lights and day shapes, and all kind of lights at night, and the horn signals that you have to use. Second section is seamanship and safety, everything from knots to how to use the radio, the life-saving equipment, how to anchor your boat, and also emergencies and firefighting. That's a really interesting section. The navigation section is basically an introduction to navigation. It teaches you how the chart works, about latitude and longitude, tides and current, and things along those lines. And then you take what you learned in the navigation section and you apply it to chart plotting. There's a lot of math in this section. So you might say, I'm in one location, I need to be in another location. What course do I have to steer? How long will it take me to get there if I go a particular speed? Those kind of, if a train leaves Chicago at 7 o'clock and arrives in Memphis at 2 o'clock, how fast did they go? That kind of thing is covered in chart plotting. In order to do your chart plotting, you are going to have to buy a couple of tools. Some of the online classes come with these, but I just ordered mine off Amazon. You need a set of parallel rules and you need a compass. The testing routine for online classes is in the form of what they call proctored exams. So basically, you log on from your computer with a webcam and they watch you while you take the test. So they're checking to make sure you're not using a cheat sheet or anything along those lines. Total of 4 tests, and for each one of the tests, you either have to score either a 90 or a 95 in order to finish that section and go on to the next section. When you're all done, you actually get a certificate that says that you've passed your training program, and this certificate is one of the things that you send in as a part of your Coast Guard submittal package. Part of qualifying for your license is proving that you're healthy enough to be a sea captain. Part one of that is a drug test. So you actually have to take a 5-panel urine test, and this is looking for the top 5 most popular drugs, grass, opiates, those kinds of things. Choose your service provider online, but make sure the service provider that you choose is actually somebody that qualifies and is a certified drug testing organization. When they're done, they're going to fill out this form CG719P. So what I did was I printed a copy and I took it with me and actually gave it to them, and they filled it out and stamped it with their stamp and gave it back to me so I could send it back as a part of my submittal package. Just pro tip, make sure you drink a lot of water before you go. The other thing you have to do is you actually have to take a physical. Now, in the physical, they're looking for things like the basics, height, weight, that kind of thing. They check your ears, they check your vision. And by the way, vision also includes a color blindness test. So if you're red-green colorblind, it's going to be an issue for you. You might end up with a restricted license. They do a hearing test, and then little things like make sure you can pick up 50 pounds, and just they ask the doctor basically, are you fit enough to be a sea captain and do the things you have to do? That form is CG719K. And again, I printed this form and I took it along to the doctor's office with me, and I got them to actually fill it out, and I took it back with me after they signed it and made it part of my submittal package. Now, both the urine test and the physical have a cost associated with them, and in a little while, we're going to talk about all the cost that it takes to be able to put together your submittal package. The next prerequisite to getting your captain's license is a TWIC card, or Transportation Workers ID card. This is the card that allows you to go into places like bonded warehouses to pick up new boats, things along those lines. So how do you get a TWIC card? The first thing you do is you go online and you find the closest registration center to where you are and you schedule an appointment. For your appointment, you go in and you actually take a copy of your passport or your birth certificate and a driver's license, for instance, an ID card, and you go in and you actually have an interview. They take your photo, they take your money, and then about 2 weeks later, you actually get the card. And then you can take that card and take a photocopy of it and send it in as a part of your submittal package. Don't send your original card in. The next prerequisite is a first aid certificate. Now, this is really important because you don't want to take the wrong class. Actually, you have to take a class that is in person. It can't be online. And a easy rule of thumb as far as making sure that you get the right class, make sure you get a class that is Red Cross certified. And the class that you have to take is a half-day class or a full-day class. If you take the little quickie 2-hour class, they will not accept the certificate that you get. The nice thing about this is once you finish the class, they send you your certificate usually the same day or the next business day. So it doesn't take very long to get your certificate. You get it in an email and then you can just print it and include it in your package. This is what my certificate looked like when I got it all done. You're getting your license from the United States Coast Guard. And just like so many other government appointments, you have to swear an oath as a part of the process. So how do you verify your oath? First of all, you print out a form, that's form CG719B, and you take that along to a justice of the peace, to a notary public, or to a Coast Guard office. You stand, you raise your hand, you swear the oath, you sign, they sign, and then you take the completed form and you put that in as a part of your submittal. By the way, speaking of residency and citizenship and passports and things along those lines, who can actually get this license? For a six-pack license, your OUPV license, you can either be a citizen or you have to have a special waiver form if you're a non-citizen in order to be able to get your OUPV license. If you want to go on after that and get your 100-ton license, so for instance, then you must be a U.S. citizen. Before you complete your submittal, one other thing you have to do is go pay your license fees. So you go online to pay.gov, and once you make your payment on pay.gov, they're going to send you an email. Print that email, and that email receipt is your proof of payment, and that's also going to go into your submittal package. What does it cost? Well, actually, let's look at what the entire program cost me. I spent $595 on my online classes, and for that, I bought $35 worth of tools. And as I mentioned, I got those on Amazon. My drug test was 80, my physical was 180. The fee for the TWIC card was 125, and my CPR classes, the half-day class, was also 125. In my case, I actually had to get a copy of the registration from one of the boats that I own because that's where some of my CTAM came from. So my boat documentation was 75. You may or may not have to do something like that. $145 to the Coast Guard, $16 to the notary where I swore my oath, and then I sent the entire package in physically, so I sent it registered mail, and that was another $15. So all up, I spent $1,382 on my submittal package and getting it in to get my license. Now that you've finally taken all your classes, gotten all your documentation, the last thing you have to do is fill out the basic application form CG719B. Check it over really carefully and make sure you've got everything. And then I would suggest that you put together a cover letter to go with your submittal and include a checklist of all the rest of the stuff that we've already talked about, all the certificates and all the things that you had to gather together. Put those in your cover sheet and then get it all together and ready to send off. Double check every single item because let me tell you, a clean application takes about 6 weeks to process minimum. If you have any little issues, it takes a lot longer than that. Don't send any originals if you're going to send a hard copy package. Make sure you make copies of everything. Speaking of which, it's your decision whether you want to scan everything and submit an e-package or whether or not you actually want to send a hard copy package. I put all my stuff together, I put a cover letter in it, and I sent it registered mail as a hard copy. Where do you send it? Well, you have to send it to the regional exam center and you need to find the one closest to you. The easiest way to do that is to go to the U.S. Coast Guard website. I've listed the URL here. If you're going to send a physical copy, they'll give you an address. If you're going to send a soft copy, they'll also give you an email address, give you a URL address where you can send everything in. If you are sending a physical copy, like I said, I'd suggest registered mail just to make sure that they get. Finally got my license.
It only took you
Months.
4 months, 5 months?
It took a while, but I am now a boat captain. And we are ready for you to call us for your boat deliveries, or if you want us to charter your boat to be the captain and crew, give us a call.